Welcome back to another episode of the Unblock Your BS podcast. Gather round, boys and girls, because today I'm going to be sharing about how I learned about attachment styles. And if you haven't stumbled across attachment styles or you don't know what they are, you may find a lot of similarities to the journey that I went on that all of a sudden smacked me right dab in the middle of researching TikTok as to what I just experienced that led me to learning about attachment styles and then discovering what mine was and working the last basically 2 years and trying to heal that and become more secure. So back in April 2023, I'm on the dating apps. I'd been single for a year and a half at that point, had been divorced for, 2+ years. And as one does, you just go on the dating apps with no idea what you're doing and just kind of looking for whoever will give you attention. And happened to see somebody who matched with me. We'll call him Mike. And he's a good looking dude, not too shabby on the ice, and was a dad, was a little bit older than me, kind of had a big burly build, and I was very drawn to that. I'm 5'11", so I'm pretty tall. And there was nothing really on his profile that was super stood out to me other than he was fairly good looking. And he had made a comment about tacos, as one does, but he's originally from California, and that stood out to me because we both live in Nashville, and having a little piece of somebody who understands where you grew up was part of the draw. So we started connecting and very quickly hit it off over text and messaging through the app. By the next day, he was like, I want to meet you. You know, we can wait until next week. I think my mom was coming into town, so I was going to have childcare built in. So I had free time the following week, but he's like, no, I really want to see you this weekend. Like, this is going really well. Like, I don't want to wait till next weekend, if at all possible. And I thought, ooh, all right, moving things along. Like, I was very excited about his intention and his pursuit. It wasn't creepy. It wasn't a red flag. In hindsight, maybe it was a little fast, but I liked that he was very direct and very decisive. So I had arranged it where I could go see him. Now he was taking care of his kids that weekend, so we had to hang out on his porch for essentially what was our first date. And so I get there, we're hanging out, we're chatting on the porch. It's going well. It's going fine. He seemed a little bit hesitant, a little bit shy at first, but then kind of warmed up and opened up. And we spent probably maybe 2 hours. So it was like from like 10 p.m. to midnight. Don't go on first dates after 9 p.m. On his front porch. And it was fine. It was good. I enjoyed his company, but wasn't overly wowed or underwowed. So when I left there, he started texting me about how in awe he was of me. Like, he was being very much more expressive through text messages than he was in person. He didn't kiss me that night. We had hugged. I kind of wanted him to kiss me, but he didn't. So that kind of left me lingering like, what would it be like to kiss him? So he was like, I don't want to wait to see you again. Can you come again tomorrow night? And I was like, yeah, I can. So we did the same thing the next night. And it got a little bit more comfortable. We were still sitting outside. It started getting really cold. So he got a blanket, he got me a sweatshirt. We were kind of snuggling on his porch. And eventually it got to the point of kissing. And that was great. Sparks were going off. Chemistry was great. And so I left that night. And this is kind of where, if in hindsight, the love bombing really kicked in. And it was happening more so over text than it was per se in person. So he would say things like, I just can't believe that I finally met you. I've been looking for you. I remember documenting and journaling a lot of the stuff. I would take screenshots because I was very intentional in dating, both at that time and now, of remembering and reminding myself of why I'm dating this person or why I'm falling in love with this person. Because I remember at the end of my marriage, when I was asked in couples counseling, like, what is it I want? What is it that he used to do that made me feel loved? I had no recollection. I've blocked it out. So I was very intentional when I was dating that I was starting to just at least journal on those things of why I was falling for this person or why I was interested in this person or what made me feel good, so that I can kind of find a map of the formula that makes me fall in love. And so I have a lot of screenshots, and he was laying it on thick. We had these inside jokes. We had a ton of synchronicities or things in common that at the time I placed a significant amount of meaning on. The I've never felt this way before kind of conversations. I remember within a few days, he happened to be driving through my neighborhood, and I live about 10 minutes down a peninsula that's way out of the way of anything that you would be doing in my city. And he took time out of his day to come over and just give me a hug and a kiss real quick. I remember recording videos for my other company when I am lit up in this, what we call limerence phase. It's like this obsessive chemical dump in your body where you're ruminating and thinking about them. It's actually very stressful on the body, but it feels good. And it's that anticipation part, the honeymoon phase, if you will. But this all happened very, very quickly, like within the first week. And he is saying these things that I, at the time, just ate up and believed that he was felt that way, that, we were meant to be together, that we finally found each other and we're going to be together, from here forward. Started talking about future plans and how, maybe in a year we would take the kids on vacation together. There was a lot of this very intense, love bomby, juicy goodness. And not to get too TMI, but we did start sleeping together very early on because of the intensity of the chemistry. And he is still to this day, at least at the time of the recording, the only man who's made me feel more in my feminine than any other man that I've been with. There was just something about his presence, the way that he led. I mean, I never touched a door handle. I loved his, I can't even describe it. I don't know that I could really describe it, but his energy when I was around him, I could put my guard down. And as a single mom who runs companies, who's very driven, I'm in my masculine a lot. And it's stressful, especially, your feminine feels safest when it's protected. And when your feminine doesn't feel safe, our masculine energy comes forward. And for women who live in that state, in a constant state of their masculine, it's exhausting. And so with him, it felt like a break from reality. It felt like I was taken care of. I was considered. So for the first, I would say 2 weeks of us dating, it was everything that I hadn't felt, maybe even ever, but especially not until since I met my ex-husband, probably 15 years before that. So there was a lot of attachment forming to him before we really got to know each other. And it was just as quickly as it started. I even remember saying this to him, that I was worried that we were going to burn out as quickly as we had started because it was going so well. And about 2 weeks in is when I started to notice cracks happening in our connection, and his push-pullness started. So we would have a really good night. We would be really close, really connected, and he would start to pull away. And when he would start to pull away, meaning like the texting wasn't as frequent, or he didn't want to hang out with me on one night. And I would start to like create stories in my head of, oh my God, I'm losing this connection. Oh no, it's not as intense. Like, wait, no, you're my drug. I need you. And so I would go more towards him. I would like try to find a time when we're going to spend time together. So one date that we had gone on, he had made plans in advance for this date, like 2 weeks in advance. So I was really excited about it. I didn't know what it was. It was going to be a surprise. He had to like pull some strings and do a lot of coordinating to make this date happen. And he took me to one of his favorite, like kind of open venue concerts here in Nashville. And as he picks me up, I can just tell his energy is super stressed. He is very anxious, like you could just feel the tension in his body. And so we're driving to this concert venue and I'm trying to understand him. And, in my world, I'm super self-aware. Like I help people with their anxieties and stresses. So I was trying to help him out with it. And he was just not allowing me into it. And so for good, at least half the date, he was an anxious hot mess. We were not enjoying the date. I was trying to get him to be present and be there with me rather than whatever was creating stress. And I remember him talking about past women he dated, and I started to notice he wasn't talking about them in the best way. And that's always my red flag of like, oh, well, how he talks about his exes is likely how he would talk to me if things, fall apart. And so maybe there's something to consider there. So my internal state started picking up on these things, but my feelings for him trumped all of that. I was overlooking those things and was just falling in love with him, quite honestly, very quickly. So from that date, eventually I got him to be present, to calm down, and we ended up having a really great time. Then we spend the whole weekend together. He meets my mom. He takes us both out to dinner. This is the first time my mom has seen me with anybody but my ex-husband. And she was like, you were just so much more relaxed than I've ever seen you. And that was really a beautiful gift that Mike gave me, was this awareness of I can be soft. I can be free-flowing. I can be carefree in the presence of a great masculine man I felt safe with. So then he got me into CrossFit. He was really active in it. I was open to it. I would go to the gym with him and I would start to kind of learn what CrossFit was. And one weekend, if you're in the CrossFit world, you know that we have, at the end of May, we have the Murph, which is a really intense workout. And he was going to be participating in that and he wanted me to come and watch him. So the issue we were running into was that he had his kids that weekend and they were going to be there, and his young daughter had seen a picture of us on Instagram and was on the lookout for girlfriend patrol, as he stated it. And we were nowhere near like at the point where we wanted kids involved in this. It had only been like a month of us maybe seeing each other at that point. And so we had a lot of miscommunication of whether I was going to go or whether I was not going to go, whether the kids were going to be there, whether I needed to kind of like hide or like mask myself from being there. I mean, it was a tiny gym, so we'll see. But I was really confused the morning of, and these competitions start early. So I'm texting him at like 6 o'clock in the morning about whether I'm supposed to show up or not, because I wanted to be really supportive and he was focused on other things, and the emotional frustration in him started to ramp up. So he just said, like, don't come. Like, it's just, I'm going to focus on other things. And I thought, I'm going to show up, but I'm just going to sit in my car so that he won't know that I'm there, but I'll at least support him, because that's what I feel is a good partner in this moment. That he really wanted me there, but it was like too complex with trying to figure out the kids situation. And ultimately his kids didn't end up going. So I ended up watching him do part of the workout. And then I left a note for him and I handed it to his coach to tell him how proud I was of him, that he can do hard things, and that, I was just super proud of him, and I got to see him a little bit. So he got the note, and a few hours later he messaged me, thanks for the note and that kind of thing. There, I guess, was in that moment, I think I said something snarky in return because it had been several hours. Like, I knew he got the note within minutes of finishing this workout, and then it had been several hours later, and my anxiety went through the roof of like, did I do something wrong? Is he mad at me? Is he upset with me? Like, why am I not getting the validation and like the, oh my God, thank you? Because I made a big effort to go. And, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, it was kind of manipulation. Like, I did that to get the pump up and the boost, but it was a really beautiful thing. I wanted his gratitude and his appreciation and his acknowledgement that, like, wow, she's a really amazing partner and she did this really sweet, kind thing. And so I don't remember specifically what I said, but in hindsight, it was a little bit snarky, and he didn't take that well, and he lashed out at me. And, basically, if you've ever been with an avoidant or somebody who is emotionally dysregulated, he basically like shut me out completely for that weekend. And this was where it got really confusing for me, and pretty much devastated me in that moment, because my intentions were so good. I was so excited that I was showing up in a way that I felt was a healthy partnership, and a little miscommunication. All of a sudden, we're not talking for 2 days. And I knew he was with his kids, so I was trying to give him space and not emotionally wreck him. But I was wrecked. I remember just laying on my couch all weekend crying, going, oh my God, am I going to lose him? Over one silly thing. And we hadn't really... we hadn't been dating that long, and I had already gotten so attached to him without actually knowing him and how he handles conflict and how he handles tough conversations and how he handles relationships. And here I am being thrust into this. And finally we had a chance to talk about 2 or 3 days later. And the first thing he said to me when we got on the phone was, all right, let me have it. Just go ahead and scream at me. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, wait a second. You think I'm gonna like tear your head off over this? No, it was a miscommunication. I want to understand what happened and how we can move forward from this, not tear you apart. And that was the first time I recognized, like, oh, he doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in this. Like, he just assumed that I was going to lash out at him. That's something he's bringing in from past relationships, because he's never experienced that from me. And we kind of drug it out for like another week and a half maybe. But I remember a very clear moment as I was journaling about this, that this is the moment that I lost him, and I actually knew that it wasn't going to work out, and yet I stayed with it until he ended things. I knew based on the way that we handled that conflict, this wasn't going to be a good partner for me moving forward, but I was so attached, I wanted to make it work. It was like I was ignoring things very early on that weren't compatible. It's not that he was right, wrong, good, or bad. It just wasn't compatible for how we both operated in relationships. But I remember going, okay, I'm choosing to stay in this, even though I know we're not going to work out. This is not my partner. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And then about a week later, he just shows up randomly one night at my door and ends things and tells me, I can't give you what you deserve. And even though I'd already come to the conclusion we weren't a good fit, it devastated me. It really did. He was watching my stories after that daily. I run a company, and so I have videos online and I have stories online that I was doing for work, and he followed me and he was watching them every day. In fact, I remember going on a work trip about 2 weeks after that, and we were posting a lot from this work trip. And it was like within a minute, it kind of became a joke between me and my team members of, oh, there's Mike. Yep, we just posted. He saw it. And it was like throughout the day. So dude was on his phone a lot. And so he was seeing our stories in real time as they're updating. And I remember every time I was taking a photo or a video for social media for that weekend, I was like, okay, I know he's going to see it. How do I want to look? How do I want to act? How do I want him to feel seeing this? Like all of a sudden, everything I was doing for work social media had this filter of, what is Mike going to see? How can I get Mike's attention through this? It was a bizarre, very weird, very kind of immature way to approach, a breakup, if you want to call it that. I called it a situationship because it was never established that we were boyfriend, girlfriend, or exclusive. I mean, we both weren't dating other people, but there was never that conversation and that directness to understand. He saw it as I was his girlfriend. I never knew that in hindsight. And it took me 4 months of dating somebody for 6 weeks to let him go and not hold feelings and hold hope that we were going to get back together. Unbeknownst to me, he had jumped right into another relationship and had moved in with this woman fairly quickly. And when I found out about that, it broke me because part of when he broke up with me was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. Like, I'm just not ready for it. And here he is jumping right back into it with somebody else, but getting even more serious and moving in with her. And she met the kids very soon, very early on. And I was like, Jesus, like I was really good to him. It didn't make sense that he's saying these things. I believed him when he ended things. And then behaviorally, he's jumping right back into another relationship, but still watching my stories every time I'd post. And so I finally got to the point at 4 months, I said, I need to block you. It's not personal. You're just still too present in my day-to-day life in my head and not in my day-to-day life in reality. And so I think actually instead of blocking him, I just said, can you please not watch my stories or I'll block you? Because I didn't want it to drag out. I knew he was in a relationship. I didn't want to interfere with that. I just needed him to stop watching my stories so that I wasn't constantly exposed to the trigger and reminder of him. And he agreed to that and he stopped. Fast forward to, as they all do, about 4 months after that, his relationship had ended. And I had gotten into another situationship because I blamed Mike that he was the problem, that he was the one that had relationship issues. About 4 months after that, I had gotten into another situationship that I called Mike 2.0. Because it was very much the same formula, the same pattern of intensity, the love bombing, the moving really quickly, the establishing relationships and attachment before we've gotten to know each other. They almost even physically looked very similar. They were both like bald and kind of, bigger build. And when that relationship ended, if you want to call it that, I went, oh, I'm the pattern here. I can't just blame it on Mike. It's now Mike and this other person, and I'm the common denominator. And this is where I started learning about attachment styles because I was experiencing a very similar pattern in men, but I can't keep blaming it on the men because I'm the one experiencing the pattern. So there's something in them that I am being drawn to, and this pattern of push-pull. As I started to learn about attachment styles, I thought I was anxious attachment, right? So Mike would pull away and I would go towards Mike. What I recognized in the second situationship is that I was actually more push-pull. So when I took the attachment style quiz from the personal development school, love their quiz, feel like it's super accurate. Ty Gibson, she is fantastic at educating on attachment style and attachment theory. When I tested for it, it said I was fearful avoidant, or also known as disorganized attachment. So the avoidant attachment style really is when you are experiencing intense emotions, you shut down, you isolate, you pull away. When you are anxious attachment, when you're experiencing intense emotions, you want to go towards your partner. You want to go almost control the scenario so that it relieves the anxiety. It's underlying both attachment styles are experiencing dysregulated nervous systems and anxiety. It's how they handle that that's different. And so oftentimes the avoidance and the anxious get together because that is the dynamic. The avoidant pulls away, that triggers the anxiety. So that clings towards the avoidant, pushes the avoidant further away. And it's just this back and forth. So when Mac, would pull away from me, I would try to reach out to him. I tried to spend more close time. I tried to get us together, thinking I could fix it. I can make it better. He needed downtime for his nervous system to come down before he could communicate, before he could rationalize. And we'll do a full deep dive on these things in a future episode. But what I recognized with it was within myself that I was doing both the push and the pull. So I was doing both anxious attachment and avoidant attachment within the same dynamic. So sometimes I would pull away and isolate and say, screw them. I'm, cutting them off. Like they don't get access to me. And then sometimes I'd be more anxious where it's like they're pulling away and I need to go towards. And so it shocked me when I took the test and it said that I was fearful avoidant because I had identified as anxious. I was like, no, I'm anxious. I always go towards. And sure enough, after this second situationship, I noticed the pattern of being fearful avoidant, which is kind of cool in a sense. If we're looking at the silver lining, that I understand both sides of the avoidant and the anxious because I experience both. So I get both sides of it and both experiences of it. And this is where I was like, I need to stop dating for a while because I need to figure out what secure attachment is within me before I start introducing. Well, basically what I needed to do was learn how to regulate my nervous system in relationships, right? And in order to do that, you got to know how to do that outside of relationships first. So I took the opportunity, again, using something like breathwork to coach myself through relationship struggles as I was going through them. I didn't really date and get involved with a lot of people, but I would notice, if I'd start conversations or I'd go on a date with somebody and they wouldn't message me right away, I'd get curious about what was coming up for me. And so when that second situationship ended, went back on the dating apps, lo and behold, who pops up? Mike. And Mike comes back into my world for a very quick flash in the pan. And I start educating him on what I've learned about attachment styles and what I've learned about my experiences with him and what I've learned about me. And that's kind of where we both recognize, like, yeah, this is not a healthy dynamic, but I couldn't help but feel so safe with him, even though I knew it wasn't going to turn into anything. But this is where I started self-abandoning because I was so addicted to the feeling I got to experience when I was in his presence that I was willing to do whatever needed to be done. I was like, we don't have to date. We don't have to label it. Like, just let me come hang out with you, basically. And so it was interesting to have the awareness of anxious avoidance, to get involved with somebody and have the chemical attachment to him be so strong. I was willing to abandon everything I wanted for myself. And I think that's the piece that when we get into these attachment style theories, they're just labels we put on people. But really, it's how do you feel when you're with that person? Because my theory is, and I think this is what they label as secure attachment, but I haven't seen it explained this way. To me, secure attachment is your ability to regulate your own emotions without needing your partner to do that, without needing your partner to give you space or to, that you can advocate for what your needs are in that moment or after, some time down to advocate, I do need space, but we'll come back and talk about this, to have emotional maturity and good communication skills, and also to be detached from your partner choosing not to be with you anymore or to, if they're going to, leave you hanging, that's not a healthy partner. So I do believe that when you're with not great partners for you, not compatible partners for you, it's going to elevate and escalate your attachment style. Whereas what I've found now that I have really worked on healing the avoidant, fearful avoidant attachment style that I have, and now when I take the test, it's secure attachment. What I found is that you can be secure. You'll still have moments of anxiety or moments of avoidance, but it doesn't become the theme and the pattern in the relationship. In fact, in a healthy relationship and a healthy dynamic, when you start to have your nervous system dysregulated, like, the anxious thoughts come in or the, avoidant wanting to shut down and pull away thoughts come in, you have a safe space within your partnership to bring that up and share that so that your partner can support you in healing that. meaning that they will give you what you need without it becoming a threat to the outcome of the relationship. And I've gotten to experience that now, where there's a man that I'm talking to, where it feels safe. Like, I feel completely safe to share, like, ooh, this is coming up for me. And he'll hold space for it. He doesn't judge me for it. He doesn't make it a me problem. He also doesn't take it on as his own of like, now he's got to fix it, right? He just offers support. It's a very interesting dynamic, and it's a beautifully safe space. Whether this turns into anything long-term or not, TBD. But I love the fact that I'm working on my communication skills, my ability to advocate for myself, my own self-awareness to know what works for me in a relationship and what doesn't, and not looking at this other person that I may get attached to before I've gotten to know them. I slow down the attachment kind of trajectory by staying present in the moment, not projecting so much onto the future that I'm building out a future life with someone that I don't even know, not rushing into something physical because that changes your chemistry, and that gets you attached before you've gotten to know them. Really looking at, how do I feel? Does my body feel safe in engaging with this person and dating this person? When you have fireworks in that spark, that is your nervous system being dysregulated. That is not safety, right? You've probably heard this before, but when you get into healthy relationships after toxic ones, healthy relationships feel boring as fuck because they don't trigger your nervous system. And part of that is just kind of some exposure therapy. It's okay. It's safe. Just because you don't have the quote unquote spark doesn't mean that it's not actually a really healthy relationship for you. You've got to desensitize and reprogram yourself not to look for and seek out those spikes, because that's a lot of stress on the body. And over time, that's likely why you've gotten into situationships, is that breadcrumbing, that push pull, when in reality, you want safety and stability in a relationship for you to be fully you. Right? And when we have those spikes, that's your body saying it's not safe to be you in this dynamic. Except we take that and we internalize it of something's wrong with me, as opposed to we're just not compatible. Right? The way that they operate doesn't work with me. Doesn't make them bad, good, right, or wrong. Just means that we're not compatible. So my advice to you, if you haven't researched attachment styles, give it a go. Right? It's not an excuse to justify bad behavior. By the way, anytime that we put labels on people, and this is such a society where we're labeling everyone, it's not an excuse to justify bad behavior. It is just information to recognize patterns of behavior, and whether you choose to accept it, to advocate for your needs to get met, or recognize that that's who they are and I don't have to accept that. I can remove myself from the scenario. Choose the type of relationship that you want. Choose the type of connection you want that serves you best to become the best version of yourself. If you are with somebody where you have to self-abandon, where you don't feel comfortable advocating for your needs, where you feel like you cater to everything that they want, that they need, but you never get that in return, why are we with them? What is the point? What, you've been married for 30 years? Cool. You've lost yourself over 30 years. What, do we need another 30 years to repeat that? Right? Or, God, we have kids together. Cool. You are modeling for your kids what to look for in a partner. And so if you have an unhealthy dynamic, guess what your kids are going to have? Right? Now, there's ways to fix all relationships and heal all relationships, but it takes two of you doing that. Right? It's not just one of you going to therapy. It's both of you, because both of you created a relationship and chose a relationship that doesn't work. So go check out attachment styles. If you are stuck in cycles of attachment style, you don't know where it's created. They're created in childhood. This is what I do with every single client in our first session, is we do some inner child work. We get to the root of where the belief that you're not lovable, or that this is love, this push-pull dynamic, or you shut down on your nervous system, or you can't handle feelings of fear of I'm going to get hurt, or I'm going to get abandoned, I'm afraid of rejection. All of that is totally healable. It's totally fixable. It's something that takes a practice and learning and understanding the root cause of it, and then addressing it in the nervous system. All of that is totally possible so that you can have secure, healthy, fulfilling, and rewarding relationships. So if you're interested in that, hit me up in the DMs. You can book a call through the link in the bio, because I love this stuff and I love working through it, because I've been able to do that. I've been able to figure out where my attachment styles came from, how it was showing up in my current relationships, what I needed to work on and heal and practice within myself, and to be able to utilize the language of my nervous system by way of anxiety and the tension that I feel in my body to inform my decisions moving forward. So, thank you, Mike. Situationship, the OG situationship. He hates that I call it a situationship, but when I explained the definition, he was like, all right, fair. So grateful that I got to experience that, as painful as it was. And that has been one of the most painful situations that I've gone through with relationships in a very long time, because I cared so much. I'm so glad I learned those lessons. I'm so glad I went through that experience to understand myself better. And I hope you all look at dating and relationships with the same lens, that it's all about the journey of who you're becoming, not necessarily a specific outcome that we're working towards.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Unblock Your BS podcast. If today's insights lit a little bit of a spark, don't let it stop here. Let's take it to the next step inside of my online healing community called the Self-Aware Army. This is your space to heal, grow, and connect with others who are doing the deep, transformative work of unblocking limiting beliefs, reclaiming their power, and healing. As a member, you'll gain access to every other week. We have virtual breathwork sessions. In between those, we've got group coaching calls and a supportive community that's all about breaking free from what's holding you back. For less than therapy, for sure, and probably even less than your weekly coffee habit, it comes with exclusive discounts on one-on-one coaching to really dive into breakthroughs, get that healing support, and start to teach you how to get your way out of whatever it is that you're facing and struggling with. So join us at unblockyourbs.com/selfawarearmy, and let's build a life you love, one powerful shift at a time. Until next time, remember, you don't have to do this work alone. We're here, we've got your back, and we're ready to walk you through this journey. So see you inside the Self-Aware Army. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next episode.